Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and I've got a review for you today on a fragrance by SP Parfums, and it's called Sandal and Peony, or Peony and Sandal. Let's check. Sandal and Peony. Here's the bottle, and I'm wearing it here. It's been on my arm for about an hour, and I'm just going to spray a fresh spray. Actually, no, I need to keep this arm free for something else that I'm up to. So I'm going to do a fresh spray on the back of my hand. 2 sprays, nice and generous. So Sweetie's just come over as is usual. You coming up, Sweetie? Coming in? No? Coming in? Come on. Hello. So let's show you Sweetie. And she is going to the groomers tomorrow, so don't tell her, but the groomers have just reopened that I use, so she will be getting a good old brush through and a wash, and she'll come back with about half as much fur as she is currently carrying. So that's going to be nice. I might do a little bit of a vlog on that if you're interested. I might do anyway. So SP Parfums Sandal and Peony, that's what we're here to talk about. I wore it and made notes the other day. I've worn it a good few times, and I'm wearing it now on my arm, as I say, an hour in there and freshly sprayed here. So let's tell you about the opening. So the opening's kind of fresh and sharp without it being citrusy fresh and sharp. I get a hint of sandalwood in the opening, but a sharp type of sandalwood note. There's instantly some sweetness. It's almost like sweet and sour. So there's sweetness, there's vanilla, and there's red berries. It's kind of smooth and almost a little bit soapy to start with. And I get something that's somewhat like Turkish Delight. So if you don't know what Turkish Delight is, it's those big pink and white squares that are kind of like jelly, and they usually are rose flavored, and they have a dusting of powdered sugar on top, icing sugar as we call it here in the UK. And I get a little hint of that. Now, this has peony in it, or a note of peony. I haven't researched peony, but I understand it smells a little bit rosy. So peony's not a fragrance I'm that familiar with, and I'm not entirely sure whether it can be obtained naturally or whether the perfumer has to make a peony accord. That's something that I need to find out. However, to me it does smell a little bit rosy, but almost like a rose, almost a bit like a rosy wine. But there is, and this is important to know, there's a liqueur in here. I believe the liqueur was called chartreuse, and it's an ancient recipe created by monks with about 100, and I can't remember now, 160 or 180 different ingredients, and it's kind of a bitter. We've got another, I think it's a helicopter. There's always something. Oh, it's over there. It's a helicopter. So yeah, this is an ancient recipe liqueur made from tons of different ingredients. Can come off sort of bitter, green, could even come off a little bit minty, this liqueur. And this is a note that Sven has used in the fragrance. And you can absolutely detect that there is something unusual in here that is not what you usually smell in a typical fragrance. And I'm guessing that's what this liqueur note is. It's dark and green, almost absinthe-like, but not quite. It's a bit fresh. It's unusual. It's definitely unusual, but not in a bad way. But that's combining with the red berries and there's some vanilla in here, and that sandalwood. The sandalwood kind of starts off as a sharp sandalwood note that creeps away again, and then later, far later in the dry down, the sandalwood comes back in a much more recognizable creamy manner. So we will come back to the sandalwood. Yeah, there's a note of red berries in here. To me, it comes off kind of powdery. So you got these powdery vanilla, this moist liqueur note, this sticky syrupy liqueur note, and it's a little bit Turkish delight like, and then it gently changes on your skin. And what I love about this is it really does develop, and it slowly changes on your skin, like going around a lazy river on a big inflatable ring. You just gently undulate around the curves of the river, so there's no jolts. It's smooth transitions, and it's, for me, I feel like this is a really well crafted, well thought out fragrance. The way that it does develop, it just gently changes, gets a little bit more on the rosy side, and at one point it kind of goes almost like makeup powder, lipstick and powder. So it feels like one of those high-end sweet lipsticks, and at the same time a really gorgeous powdery, you know, those powder puffs that ladies from a vintage era would have on their dresses and sort of dab it on their faces. Posh, like really nice powder, but there's more to it than that. So at the same time, you've got some of the other notes in the background still playing along, the liqueur, the vanilla, the red berries. The red berries gently fade very slowly into the wearing, so they're kind of present at the stage that I noticed the makeup and lipstick. They're still there, playing a part in that, I guess, because lipsticks usually have a bit of a fruity nuance. For me, there is vanilla in every single stage of this perfume, and if I was to put it in a category and said these are that kind of fragrance, I would say this is one of my vanilla fragrances. So I would call it, despite having peony and sandalwood as the title, I would actually say this is a vanilla-y fragrance. But what's beautiful is that the vanilla never dominates, and there's so much else going on that it's not just a vanilla. It's just that the vanilla is there throughout everything, but it's not a super sweet sugary vanilla. It's a very much powdery, I wouldn't call it spicy either, but it feels natural, like natural powdered vanilla pods without too much added sugar or anything synthetic to make it feel cheap or juvenile. It definitely has a very grown-up feel about this fragrance. The longer you wear it, the more noticeable that vanilla does become, and at one point or another you don't notice it, but those red berries finally slip away for good, and then slowly, gently, that green sort of sweet and sour, slightly bitter liqueur note also gently backs away as well. And then what happens is the sandalwood comes in, and it's a gorgeous sandalwood. It's creamy, and I think it's creamy because it's combined with the lovely vanilla, but it feels creamy, and it reminds me a little bit of the sandalwood from Samsara, but less sharp, much more smooth, and almost combined with cream and vanilla, so it's so creamy. And then it kind of feels powdery, musky, and like there's some iris at play as well. Not full-on iris, just in the background, combining with the vanilla and the musk and the sandalwood. And at this point, it's really just a beautiful, smooth, slightly sweet scent. So what you get left with in the sort of far dry down is this creamy, vanillic, sandalwood, powdery, musky, irisy, warm, cozy fragrance that's almost like your skin but better, but it has presence, so it's not a skin scent. It projects, not beastly, not, it's because of the nature of the scent, because it's so nice, because there's nothing too challenging. It's not taking over any space. It's transparent, even though it's projecting nicely, and it just smells like your skin but better, but clean and musky and powdery, and it just smells really, really good and clean and lovely. Now, once you get past the 5-hour mark, it starts to change a little bit more, and I get almost like a dirty chocolatey nuance from it. So I think there's some patchouli in here, because patchouli can smell chocolatey, but this isn't like a milk chocolate, this isn't like a gourmand chocolate. It does feel a little bit like patchouli in a chocolate disguise, but it's light, it's not too full on, it's not too heavy. The weird thing about the liqueur note is I find that it kind of creeps back in later on in the wearing. You start to realize that you can smell it again, so it's almost like it's playing hide and seek. And certainly when I wore it and when I took notes the other day, it was way past the 5-hour mark, and I thought it had long gone, but it crept back, and it sort of combined with that chocolatey vanilla to give it another nuance, a fresh lift, something else to get excited about, something else to notice, and to stop you ever getting bored, because this fragrance just, it never stops. Even though it's very gentle in the way that it changes, it doesn't ever fall flat, and it never really goes linear, certainly not to the very, very end. This fragrance lasts very, very well. I would say absolute minimum on my skin 10 hours, probably more like 12, and I wouldn't need to reapply it just because I wanted more projection, because it projects really well for pretty much the whole time. I find it interesting, I find it beautiful, I find it easy to love. I've sent a couple of samples out to some fragrant friends, and so far the 2 people that have contacted me about it, it's been a love for them. So they're both females, just for your information. I think it probably does lean a bit feminine, simply because of the slightly floral aspect, although to me this is not a floral fragrance. It's more of a vanilla with this unusual liqueur note and the sandalwood, but it still feels, because it's powdery and a bit sweet, it feels like it would appeal more to women. Of course, anyone can wear it, and if you are comfortable rocking sweet fragrances, vanillic fragrances, powdery fragrances with a touch of floral, then I don't see why this wouldn't work for you. You'll just smell clean, vanillic, fluffy. If you're just catching it in the air, if you're just, imagine it's one of your friends or family or someone that you walk past in the shopping supermarket, they're not gonna smell floral girly smells, they're just gonna catch something really quite unusual, but in a really appealing way. They're just gonna get something that's clean, musky, and green and syrupy at some stages, and maybe more powdery, vanilla-y, woody at other stages. So I can't really speak highly enough of this fragrance. I think, in my opinion, it's one of the very best that Sven has put out, and actually it's one of the best fragrances I've smelled in a long time, hands down. Like, when I do a best of 2020 video, this is absolutely going to come out in the top 5. I think it's, I really hesitate to say masterpiece, but I could almost go so far as to call this one a masterpiece, because it is that good. There is nothing in here that I could criticize. It is such a smooth transition, beautiful quality ingredients. At no point do I pick up anything jarring, anything that feels wrong or synthetic. It is just smooth, 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 smooth. The only thing that might put some people off is if they don't get on with the liqueur note, which, as I say, is kind of hard to explain, but it feels green and syrupy, sweet and sour at the same time. That's the only thing that some people might not like, but I honestly think it's amazing. It's absolutely brilliant. Well done to Sven. I think he's done an amazing job, and thank you to Sven for sending it to me for review. I really appreciate that, and I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll link the details below for the website for SP Parfums. Also, Yana from the channel Tom Elise has reviewed this too, so I'll link her review below. That's all. Thank you for watching.